Welcome back to the deep dive.
Yeah.
You sent us a fantastic stack of sources this time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but they aren't about history or science, not even politics. Instead, we were diving deep into the literal building blocks of connection,
Okay.
how we structure time when we tell a story.
Right. The fundamental architecture of narrative. We're looking at the four primary past tense structures in English.
And the mission today.
The mission is to unpack how these structures, simple past, continuous, perfect, and perfect continuous, how they all work together
Right.
to let you tell these really detailed, nuanced stories, and most importantly, stories that are chronologically clear. So
Yeah.
your listener isn't, working overtime just to follow the timeline.
I really think of this deep dive as a shortcut to just being a better storyteller.
It is.
Because the sources use these brilliant high-stakes examples. We're talking celebrity sightings, missed flights.
And even ghost stories, which I loved.
Oh, the ghost stories were great. And they show how these tiny grammatical choices create tension, establish context, and manage surprise. We're going to find out why a little word like had can be the secret key to a really good anecdote.
Exactly. We're moving beyond just defining the tenses. That's not the point. We want to get at the narrative effect of each choice.
Yes.
We want to show you how to use these structures so you avoid that, information overload and you deliver just the important bits of insight right on time.
Okay, let's jump right into the foundation then. When we start a story, we have to lay down the main events, right? The sequence of actions.
That is the role of the simple past. It's the spine of the narrative. It's used for actions that started and finished at a really specific point in the past. It's definitive.
It's the action verb. It's the moment things changed. I'm looking at the anecdote about seeing the Marvel actor.
Mm-hmm.
The core finished events that define that whole story are simple past. The actor walked in, he ordered a coffee, and then he left. Boom, boom, boom.
Or in the concert blackout story, the big catastrophe is simple past. The lights suddenly went out and everything just stopped.
So clear.
Clear, quick, done. It gives you the essential plot points.
But if a story was only simple past actions, it would feel like a really boring police report, wouldn't it?
It would just be a list of facts.
Just a list. We need to add depth. We need to tell the listener what the world looked like while those actions were taking place.
And that's where the past continuous steps in. This is like the background music. It tells us what was already in progress when that simple past action happened.
It adds atmosphere.
It's texture, yeah. It shows simultaneous action or an action that was just about to be interrupted.
And this is where that concert story really comes alive. The lights went out. That's the simple past. But right before that, the band was playing their biggest hit. The crowd was shouting. They were waving their
You
phones.
feel it.
You don't just know what happened. You feel the energy that was just suddenly cut short.
It creates that three-dimensional scene. Think about the spooky hotel anecdote for a second. Okay. The simple past event, the lights going off, that only matters because of the ongoing state it interrupted. When I was trying to sleep, the lights suddenly went off. The trying to sleep was the context. The blackout was the interruption.
So simple past and continuous give us a fully realized scene. You have the action and you have the atmosphere. But here's the challenge that I think throws most storytellers off.
Mm-hmm.
What if you need to bring up something that happened before your main story even began? If you just use simple past for that, the listener's going to assume it just happened in sequence.
That's the narrative trap. Exactly. If I say, I saw the actor, then I saw him at the airport, it sounds like I saw him in the cafe, and then a little later that day, I ran into him at the airport.
Right. That's not what happened.
No. We need a structure that lets us travel back to the past of the past.
Okay, let's unpack this one. This is the chronological anchor. The past perfect.
This is such a critical tool for storytellers, and it's so simple. It's just formed by using had plus the past participle, but the effect is immediate.
Not so.
It signals to the listener that the action you're describing absolutely occurred before the main action of the story. It prevents any chronological confusion right away.
Okay, so let's go back to the Marvel actor sighting. The main story is the simple past action. Seeing him last week in that coffee shop.
Right.
But the narrator wants to add this crucial piece of prehistory to establish familiarity. And they say, I had actually seen him once before at an airport.
And you see the instant clarity. That had seen establishes that the airport sighting is ancient history compared to the cafe sighting.
Yeah.
And it changes our understanding of the narrator's reaction when they saw him in the cafe.
But wait, couldn't I just say, I saw him before at the airport using simple past? Why does that little word had suddenly make it so much clearer?
Because if you just use simple past, our brains just work in a linear way. They'll try to fit that action into the current sequence. When you introduce had, you are giving the brain a very specific instruction.
Like a command.
It's a command. It says, stop, pause the main timeline. This context happened earlier. Now that you know this, return to the main story. It's an explicit flag for a flashback.
That makes the stakes so much clearer, especially in that missed flight example from the sources. That's a story of failure.
Absolutely. The stakes are really high. The continuous action is, we were running through the terminal. That's our present struggle.
We feel the panic.
But the failure point was already cemented by a prior action. By the time we arrived at the airport, the plane had already taken off.
Oh, that one phrase had already taken off tells the whole miserable story.
It's all there.
It clarifies that the leaving was completed before we even arrived. There's no ambiguity. The past perfect structure takes the blame off the running and just places it squarely on the departure.
And we saw that same clarifying power in that embarrassing London flight mix-up.
Oh, that was a great one.
The simple past action is the realization of the seat mistake, but the humiliation felt so intense because of the prehistory. The narrator realized the person in the correct seat had already complained to the flight attendant before I even said a word.
Ah, so that's why the flight attendant looked so annoyed.
Exactly. The had complained explains it all. It gives the context for that current emotion.
Okay, so past perfect is great for defining a completed prior action, a single moment. But what if that prior action wasn't a quick finished moment? What if it was a long, agonizing process? We still need to talk about prehistory, but now we need to emphasize the duration, the struggle leading up to the main event.
And that's our final piece of the architecture, the past perfect continuous. The structure had plus been plus verbing, it's all about duration. It shows how long a process took place leading right up to a later past action. It's about sustained effort.
So going back to the Marvel actor, we need to show why he looked so tired when he walked into that cafe. We know he'd been at the airport, but the duration matters. He had been signing autographs for like 2 hours straight.
That had been signing really emphasizes the process. It's not just that he signed autographs. It's that he endured this continuous action for a long period, which led to his exhaustion in the next scene.
The tense choice itself conveys empathy.
It really does. And we see that same focus on sustained effort in the concert buildup. The lead singer had been building up to the best part of the song when the power failed.
Ah, so it creates this kind of linguistic rant.
Yes. It emphasizes all that energy and anticipation that was invested right before the failure happened. It allows the narrator to heighten the emotional payoff.
Or the emotional letdown, in this case.
Right. Or the letdown by stressing that long action that was interrupted.
And nothing conveys agonizing anticipation quite like the spooky hotel vigil using this structure.
Oh, yeah.
The speaker finally gave up and went to the lobby. That's simple past. But they needed to explain the sheer suffering beforehand. I had been lying awake for 2 hours with only the sound of creaking doors before giving up.
You feel those 2 hours. The focus on the duration makes the fear so much more palpable.
It's the difference between saying I was tired and really showing the deep drawn-out pain of staying awake.
And it's the same with the humiliation during the plane seat mix-up. The narrator didn't just feel confused. The suffering was continuous. I had been dragging my heavy bag down the aisle for what felt like forever before I finally found the right seat.
It's the public struggle, the sustained nature of it.
That's what mattered, exactly.
Okay, we've broken down the 4 essential tools. But the magic, as you said, happens when we stop talking about them individually and start weaving them together.
Yes, that's how real, complex, engaging stories are built.
Which brings us to the ultimate synthesis, right? The final anecdote from the sources. The haunted hotel, stay in the countryside with the mysterious footsteps.
This story is perfect. It uses all 4 tenses to deliver a really chilling but very clear narrative twist.
So let's break down the timeline of the horror. We start with the sustained setting, the background action, using past continuous. While I was trying to sleep, I kept hearing footsteps.
That's the atmosphere.
Then the narrator does something to resolve the mystery. A simple action, the simple past. I checked with the manager the next morning.
And this shifts the scene from that internal distress to an external investigation.
And here comes the twist. The manager reveals the shocking prior fact that establishes the terror, the past perfect. The room above mine had already been empty for years.
And notice how crucial that is. If the manager had just said the room was empty for years with simple past, it might sound ambiguous.
How so?
Well, maybe it was empty that morning, but it was occupied last night. But by using had been empty, The manager explicitly states that the state of emptiness occurred before the narrator even checked.
It instantly escalates the creepiness.
Because the footsteps couldn't have been human.
And then finally, the narrator summarizes the duration of their distress using our last tense, the past perfect continuous, to highlight the emotional impact.
Let me guess. I had been tossing and turning all night, waiting for those footsteps to stop.
That's the one.
That combination is just storytelling brilliance. You, the listener, instantly know everything. What was happening, what the narrator did, what the terrifying truth was before the investigation, and how long they suffered.
And the narrator never has to stop and say, now let me flash back in time.
No, the tense does all the work for them.
That's the real insight here, I think. These structures aren't just grammar rules from a textbook. They are precision tools for time management in conversation.
Right.
They let you communicate not just what happened, but the full sequence, the context, the duration, and even the emotional investment, all of it, instantly.
It empowers you. It empowers you to tell any complex story from your life, from an embarrassing mix-up to, a profound realization, and ensures the listener stays perfectly aligned with your timeline.
They don't have to work to keep things straight.
They don't. They can just focus on the content and the emotion of the story.
We've covered everything from celebrity drama to structural linguistic theory today, all anchored by the precise application of these four past tenses. They're like the scaffolding beneath every great personal anecdote.
The final takeaway is that these tenses provide all the necessary chronological markers. Simple past for finished moments, continuous for the ongoing setting, past perfect for prehistory, and past perfect continuous for that sustained prior duration. Master these, and you master narrative clarity.
Our sources made a really compelling point that when these tenses are combined, you can tell any story. We realize that narrative authority often relies entirely on choosing the right past tense structure. So consider this. If linguistic structure dictates how clearly we perceive time in retrospect, how does knowing that something had been happening change the very meaning and emotional weight of what happened next?
That's a great question.
It's something to mull over the next time you hear or share an anecdote from your life.
Until next time, keep exploring the structures that make our world understandable.
Keep diving deep.